Okay, let's try to finish up chapter 16, resource demand. And I think the last video stopped on perfect competition, which is where you have price takers. A cotton farmer doesn't have a choice as to what they can charge. They have to accept the market price. So this is resource demand under imperfect competitors, which are monopolies, oligopolies, or monopolistic competition. Refer again back to table 10.1 in chapter 10. So this is an imperfect competitor. Look at your units of a resource, total product and marginal product, which is the same as in the previous slide. But this time it's an imperfect competitor, which means they have to lower the price in order to sell more output. So if we look at the total revenue, we see that at $2.80, they could sell zero. So we are going to look at the 260 times 7 units produced. That means a total of $18.20. 13 times $2.40 is $31.20. 18 units times 220 is $39.60. And 22 units times $2 is $44, and so on. Now, look over in your right-hand column, marginal revenue product. That is what a worker brings to total revenue. So the first worker brings $18.20, second worker $13, the third worker $8.40. So if you look at your, down at the bottom, your demand curve, you see that at $18, this firm could afford to hire one worker. At $13, two workers. At $8, or at $8.40, three workers, and so on. So you have a downward sloping demand curve. Only the imperfect competitive firm demand curve is more inelastic. It's a straighter demand curve, and that's because the imperfect competitor has to lower the price to sell more output. So let's look at some things that determine resource demand. Change the entire curve, shift to the right for an increase, left for a decrease. Obviously, changes in the product demand. If we need more, if all of a sudden landscaping becomes really popular and everybody wants a pretty yard, then we have an increase in demand for landscape architects, and those two work in yards. Changes in productivity. Always an increase in productivity will increase demand for that worker. The more productive workers are in more demand, and that means, and they get paid more. So productivity increases equal wage increases. These next 3 bullet points should probably go under the heading of productivity. The quantities of other resources that go with it, the land or capital available, and technological advance. Obviously, technology will increase productivity, and like the use of Excel in accounting, or the use of computer-assisted drafting in landscape architecture, and so on. The quality of the variable resource labor, investments in human capital. Investing in human capital will increase the demand or productivity of that worker, and they'll be in more demand. That's why developed countries have higher wages than those that are less developed. We have access to technology and quality of education. There's some parts of the world, there's some 1 billion people out there that have no electricity. So obviously they're not going to get paid very much if they have a job at all. So let's see some other things that are important. Changes in the price of substitute resources. Remember with substitutes from chapter 3, decrease in the price of one might decrease demand for the other. But that's not always the case with labor. Now let's say, I hear a lot of people say, oh, we shouldn't use those auto checkouts at Walmart because somebody doesn't have a job now. But the reality is that saving money to the company, which may mean they can sell more output, so they may need more people in stocking and unloading the trucks and driving the trucks and so on. So actually the output effect could be more in play here when you see the change in or the lower prices actually increase the demand for labor. Another really good example of this, and I have put this in your course documents after the PowerPoint chapter 16. It's called the beer oligopoly. Beer used to be a very labor-intensive process to bottle and can beer. Now it's totally automated. I mean, you can can thousands and thousands of cans of beer a day in an automated factory. But that doesn't mean there's been a decrease in demand for workers in the beer industry. Because it's so cheap now to produce using automation, so much more is sold. So what happens is Anheuser-Busch, for example, has hired more um, people to transport it. They have to have warehouses and people to run those. They have to have business analysts that decide what areas of the country need more advertising. They have to hire people for marketing and sales and so on. So they're actually the output effect is more stronger here, the net effect, because it's cheaper to produce, so they can sell more, so they need more workers in the total industry. So it just depends. And read over that document that I provided for you in course document. So changes in price of complementary resources. Complements, of course, are used together for consumption. You've probably seen those workers using stilts to wallpaper or hang sheetrock. It just means they don't have to get down off a ladder, move the ladder every time. They've got those stilts. Those stilts make them more productive. So it's kind of a primitive piece of capital, but it is capital. And the lower price of those stilts, the more productive that worker becomes, and they can demand higher wages, particularly if they're working per hour, because they can get a lot more done in an hour by using those stilts. But those stilts don't do anything by themselves. They have to be used with a worker, just like the computer-assisted drafting computer has to be used by a worker. So an increase or a decrease in the price of those complementary resources increases the demand for that kind of labor and moves the curve to the right. So let's see here. So this is a slide that you can probably read through. It's pretty self-explanatory, as is this one, just some examples of changes in product demand, changes in productivity, change in the price of another resource. So when we look at occupational employment trends, I'm just going to skip to this next slide. If you look at this 10 fastest growing U.S. occupation, in percentage terms, that means what they expect them to grow. You can see that 6 of these are actually in healthcare. We're an aging society, and that's increasing the demand for those people who work in healthcare, particularly home health aides, people that need help in their homes. But there's some others listed there. Wind turbine service technicians. If we're going to more windmills, we're going to need more people to work on them. Probably the same goes for solar. Down at the next to the bottom, statisticians. Business is still very important, and we still need statisticians and accountants and those kinds of jobs as well. When you look at the declining employment trends, no surprise here, telephone operators, it's all automated. Postal service, mail sorters, those are all automated as well. So we just don't need a photographic process workers. We make our own photographs on our phone and put them on our computer. If we want to print them out, we can do that too. So we just don't need people to do that anymore. And those are declining employment trends. So that's really where we'll stop before chapter 16. You need not go any further in this chapter. So. Uh-oh, I don't think I even got that when I don't have my face in it.